Hi, my name is Mark D. Copoulos, and I'm a Philadelphia real estate and criminal defense attorney. And tonight I would like to talk about filing ejectments, the process in filing an ejectment, and why you should never file an ejectment alone. A lot of people, I was in City Hall today, and I saw an old lady. She was trying to file an ejectment herself. And you might save a little bit of money in doing it this way, but I guarantee you, for that lady, it's going to be a complete nightmare. And I would like to just lay out the steps in filing an ejectment, but there's no better way to learn how to do an ejectment than to do it. And the more you do, the more efficient you get. The more efficient you get, the faster you get. And there's a saying that time is money. And so if you want to file an ejectment yourself and you're not worried about how long it's going to take, then have at it. If you want it done quickly and efficiently, then I would recommend that you contact an attorney to do so. So what are the steps in filing an ejectment? The first thing that you're going to need if you file an ejectment is you're going to need the certified deed to the property. Now, the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas is tightening up what they're accepting in terms of deeds that are filed. And now the deed actually needs to be a certified copy from City Hall. So you get your certified deed and then you file what's called a complaint. And you can probably find a boilerplate complaint online. But essentially what the complaint is it's going to lay out your theory of the case for the judge. It's going to lay out the fact that you're the owner of the property. There's somebody there who's occupying the property who doesn't have a right to do so. And you want to come in and take possession of that property. Now, in your ejectment, you can also sue for money damages, and if there's some question as to what legal basis you have to take possession of the property, you can also file an eviction at the same time. After your complaint is filed, it needs to be served on the person who's living in the property. It needs to be hand served. And so what you need to do if you're filing yourself is you need to get a process server to go out and hand this complaint to the individual living at the property. You are not permitted to go out and do it yourself. You need to have somebody else do it and upload what's called an affidavit of service with the courts. After that affidavit of service is uploaded, the squatter has 20 days to respond to your complaint. If they don't respond, then you're going to win by default. Before you win by default, you have to send what's called a notice of precipice to enter default judgment to the squatter, and essentially give them another 10 days to respond, telling them that they're in default. And if they don't respond within 10 days, you're going to win. Now, there's a new requirement in Philadelphia after obtaining a default judgment, and basically it requires that you get in front of a judge to verify that your complaint is valid, that your deed is valid, before you can schedule a lockout with the sheriff. So let's say that you file your complaint. The squatter doesn't even know what it is, and they don't respond. You move for a default judgment. You get the default judgment. Now you're waiting for the court to schedule a court date. Eventually, the court is going to schedule a court date. You're going to show up to court. You're going to need a certified copy of the deed, and you're going to need to explain to the judge what's going on, who these people are who are living there. You're going to need to prove that you have valid service of your complaint. And if all of that goes well, then the judge is going to give you what's called a judgment of possession. 10 days after you obtain the judgment of possession, you need to file what's called a writ of possession, and then you can take that down to the office of the sheriff in Philadelphia, pay them $325, and they will schedule a lockout. And essentially what will happen is the sheriff will call you and tell you, on this day we're coming out to the property, be there with somebody to change the locks. If it was purchased at sheriff's sale, then have somebody with a truck there to help the squatter move out. And we'll take care of the squatter. If the squatter resists, we will arrest the squatter. And that's basically how it works. The sheriff shows up, knocks on the door. Usually the squatter has vacated at that point, but if they don't, they are told they have 10 minutes to leave, and they must leave. And if they don't, then they'll be arrested for criminal trespass. After the squatter has been removed from the property, he has 10 days to give you a notice to keep his belongings, to come in within the next 30 days to come in and retrieve his belongings. So let's say 10 days go by, you don't hear from the squatter. You probably want to wait until about a month before you throw all his stuff away. And that's pretty much the end of the story. Now, why would you get a lawyer to handle this? First of all, ejectments, unlike evictions, are filed in the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, which means that the Pennsylvania Rules of Civil Procedure apply. The Pennsylvania Rules of Civil Procedure are approximately 500 pages long. I'm looking to see if I have a copy of them handy. I don't, but it's about this big. This is the type of book that you're dealing with, and these are the rules that are going to apply to this ejectment. And a lot of times, if you go into court and you're unrepresented, and the judge sees that you're just kind of trying to do it yourself, they'll throw out some of these rules to kind of shake you up. And so the judge will say, did you serve pursuant to Pennsylvania Rule of Civil Procedure 402? And you're not quite sure what that means. Or, they'll throw out some other arcane rule or some rule that lawyers use all the time. But if you don't know these things, it's going to slow your case down. The other thing is, a lot of these ejectments, all the ejectments, have scheduling conferences and case management conferences before the actual ejectment. And so if you have an attorney, the attorney can take care of the case management conference, can take care of the scheduling conference, can basically do everything for you. You don't have to take your time off from work. If you're a real estate investor, your time's very valuable. I'm right across the courthouse, from the courthouse and City Hall. I can, put my coffee down and walk over there. It's not a big deal. You don't have to get parking. I take care of the whole thing. You go to the case management conferences, it's going to be the same type of thing. It's a legal setting. The guy who's going to be mediating the conference is going to be throwing rules at you, asking you if you followed specific rules of civil procedure. Do you really want to deal with that? And so if you're like the old lady that I saw in City Hall today, who probably doesn't have any other choice but to try to do it herself, you can do that. And eventually you'll probably be successful. You'll probably get the person out eventually. But it's going to be like the first eviction that I did 6 years ago, where you start it, you're not quite sure what to do next, you pause, it's going to be slow. Whereas if you hire an attorney like me, who's done it hundreds and hundreds of times, and who has a system, who knows all the rules of civil procedure, who knows the players over at City Hall, I can go in and take care of it expeditiously. And so if you're an investor, it's not worth. You can follow the rules in this blog, and you can go online and you can probably figure out how to do it. But quite frankly, it's just not worth your time. I process ejectments at a reasonable rate. I think you'll find that my fee is competitive with pretty much any firm in the city, and I will get it done as fast as it can be done. So if you have an ejectment, the other thing is if you live out of state, we could probably coordinate the entire transaction via email. Call me, send me a photo ID, send me the deed, and we'll make it happen. So if you have a property that you need to take possession of, if you have squatters there, if you have unwanted family there who has no legal basis to be there, and you need to get them out and take access of that valuable asset, contact my office, 267-535-9776. We will get them out fast. We will get this done. We will take care of it. And you will not have to learn the Pennsylvania Rules of Civil Procedure along the way. Thank you for listening to my blog. Have a great night.